Jitish, Bose, Riyas, welcome to this probably the last and the final edition of the In Conversation series of creative brands. This evening, as we enter the 15th week of the Biennale and the closing week of the Biennale, I think we are at an important crossroads, as it were, a crossroads of great change and great forward movement, especially in the background of the news that we got just now about the government allocation of 2 crores towards the Biennale budget, which is a good thing. This 15th week, Jitish, what are your impressions, images and imaginations that you carry forward from the second edition of the Kochi-Muziris Biennale? As you walk probably one last time out of Aspenwall House in a few days' time, what are those axes of your imagination?
Well, it's at a fundamental level, it's trying to map what one is seeing at the end of the project onto what one could see at the beginning of the project. And in a way, also I think, to me, that's also an exploration on the whole idea of inquiry. How do you begin to ask yourself questions, and where do you find answers? And so in a way, for me, when the project as large as this, where there are 100 projects, 94 artists, it is a journey you undertake, or a conversation you undertake with an ever shifting set of alphabets, because 65% of the project is new work. So you're actually trying to frame a word or a sentence in an emergent terrain and make meaning of it. So at this point, I think for me, it is at one level extremely rewarding that the wide feedback that one has received, both in terms of the reviews that have appeared and also direct feedback that we've seen in online blogs and all the other sources, and emails, valuable emails in my inbox, that people have actually found connections which I'd hoped they would find, because there are the exhibition is built with a set of leitmotifs that hopefully I was hoping a viewer encounters while viewing the project, and also hoping that once a viewer leaves the project, they might begin to see the project come together as an after image, and the curatorial intentions could take residence in the corridors where there are no artworks. So that might actually bring the project together. And so it's been rewarding to actually see that feedback come back quite tangibly.
This evening, what would you reflect back on? Your work, of course, continues as the head of the foundation. It's not a full stop here, neither a comma.
When Jitish was chosen by the 8-member committee, now I feel, they have done the right choice. It was a unanimous selection, and he's done incredible job. Our job is as a foundation's job is, it's almost like, he's given another strength to the project from where we started, Riyas and myself. Riyas put it sometimes I've been hearing, he said, Jitish's project is another pillar to our foundation, our vision and things like that. I don't know where to start, it's almost like circling a square. He started the whirling thing, now I am into circling a square. So we have to find, we are confident from here onwards. I think what we learned, the process of his curatorial practice, as well as he is putting it up his own thoughts, we learned a lot of things from that. And also the city taught us. And also I see parallel Riyas is adding that programs. That's also given strength to the entire project. It's become more social and more political and more engaging. So from Jitish, it is the space traveled, space moved, and he added. So it's kind of everything coming together. It's a beautiful moment. I think maybe that's what I feel.
Yes, it's probably too close to speak from the vantage point of history. Yet, the Kochi-Muziris Biennale sought to rehistoricize, if I could use the term, not in a revisionist sense, but to your mind, how do you think you would read what the Kochi-Muziris Biennale has achieved in rereading, rehistoricizing what you set out to do in the beginning?
We three of us are sitting here. I feel it'll be very interesting to kind of go back to our own campus where we all kind of studied and started. And I think what that campus taught us was the idea of doing things rather than just discussing the possibilities. So in this edition I felt that when Jitish came along as a curator, I could sense that the wit, the intellectual rigor, the sense of understanding the time, people, the society, and the context, which was always like, sometimes even a joke when we all used to meet, that how do you change the system? We normally used to smile at things that with the sense of humor, that things which you see around. There was a reluctance to believe or accommodate that. There was a sense of revolt, which was always there. I think without actually kind of underlining that, this project has at least moved towards a possibility of rereading history, or even contemporary Indian art history to some extent. So as we know, the site complements that to some extent. The history of the place complements that, and as a stage which we are in, starting from maybe as a 4-year-old organization, I feel it's some way or the other achieving some kind of a strength to articulate what is necessary for the time. And I would acknowledge one fact that when we started the project, we had a certain kind of possible insight to kind of how it should grow. But when I'm looking at this year, what Jitish has brought in with a completely different kind of an intellectual rigor to reimagine a history of a site with I would say a certain power of perception which is normally not available for a general reading. So I think Jitish has invested a lot of possibilities into shuffling the possibility of a certain history by reimagining. I would say the site itself. So I think I feel that, and that's one reason I said it's going back to our own college years. I feel there was some kind of an which we always smiled at. I looked at it as, with that kind of a rigor. I mean, there is a great tendency in the project to kind of re-evaluate what is already said, what is already written. The terminology is one used to talk about history. The terminology is one used to talk about art, aesthetics. I feel that with this edition, I think the Biennale with Jitish's, through his point of view, to kind of interact with the viewer, even with communicating with the artist which he worked with, I think I rate that as the kind of very high achievement of the biennial into the context of the world art. I mean, this is a kind of a
So the survey used to happen in Delhi and Bombay. Now I think many people are doing the survey in Cochin to find new talents, new ideas. Kochi has become. I think that's what is happening now. And Jitish brought quite a lot.
Jitish, how did we spoke about the intellectual rigor that both Bose and Riyas talked about. When you set about defining a vision, how did you break free from received notions or received constructs when you set out to lay down a vision for Muziris Biennale?
I actually at no point presented, and even today, anything as a resolved vision. In fact, for me, the perennial provisionality was extremely essential. So even while some of the things I'm seeing in the end can be uncannily close to what I set out to do in the beginning, the repeated thought was that I want this biennial to produce themes and not reproduce themes. So I didn't want to set out by having a goal-oriented notion of actually saying that this is a vision that one is going to duplicate through exhibition making. But in fact, it is through exhibition making that you find an ever-evolving vision. So for me, I did multiple talks and lectures, etc., in the multiple journeys that one undertook. But each time my talk essentially would be the vision of the day. I just shared what I saw at that point of time. Each time the structure, biofield, title, everything was in flux. And I was never bound by essentially wanting to, in fact, hoping that there's a self-organizing intelligence within the project that one has to basically see if it can manifest itself through participation rather than administration.
Maybe I like the idea of you always used to say whenever you used to send letters to artists, you sent out, it's almost like prompts. I like that idea because maybe it's my personal view or something like that. I never could take a curator show with a theme. Like if somebody is giving a theme and produce work out of it. You can have theme and you can pick up work. But when you say prompts, there is the possibility of openness. There is the possibility of maybe a dissatisfaction. Once you are satisfied, there is no point in thinking about it. So I think I always like the idea of thematic projects. But I'm not saying that you haven't come up with any kind of thread of theme, but it's like each beats made that theme, helped to make the whirl and circle and the festoon maybe. Yeah.
So in fact, I was hoping that, like how Bose was just saying, that hoping that prompts and intuitions that you anyway inhabit as any form of intellectual or creative practice, can that be set a sail to in fact reach out and return with intuitions and prompts. So in fact this proliferation of intuitions and prompts becomes the tapestry, which is the exhibition.
one question that I always wanted to ask all of you together was, you spoke about the use of a joke or joke among ourselves. In any enterprise, and particularly in a creative enterprise, how did you perhaps resolve any creative differences, if you had at all? Did you have any creative differences at all in terms of putting this enormous enterprise together? And how did you resolve, or how did you arrive at that, some sort of agreed territory?
Actually, to me, realizing the programming of the day is an unfolding of the mystery, because there's been so much programming, incredible amounts of conversations, dialogues, film screening. It's like turn up and look at the board and there's something new. So in fact, that is the kind of discovery that one has had in terms of watching. So in fact, I think our roles were quite defined. We would overlap in terms of maybe occasionally dialoguing about something, but broadly I think all of us just set out to do our stuff. No?
This foundation has not reached a stage that where it's an institution, where you have a 2-year plan laid out. So in its inception stage, what we were mainly targeting to achieve as a major commitment is the main exhibition. So I think once Jitish came on board, I think it's almost like created a platform to work on, and we were only supposed to support that. So that decision was internally very strong, even between me and Bose. So I was given completely a different job to be the director of programs, which I felt that it should never be contradicting to what Jitish is trying to say in any ways. So I think in that context, most of the programs which evolved around that gave me tremendous freedom to accommodate people who are very relevant for our time. If I give even the film section as an example, we have 12 major curators part of it, which is without having any kind of interference, which just happened because some of them are much more important than us, who's been part of that curatorial endeavor. But it's never been a kind of a platform to position oneself. Everybody was told or invited to contribute, so that we kept that, even which was told to the students biennial curators, they knew that what is their job to do. They were mainly the surveyors of Indian art institutions, and they were given a venue to. So I think under a larger umbrella, where I feel that where everybody is mainly focusing on a larger project, which is almost becomes the the main attraction. The rest of the things, personally, I was conceiving it also as a biennial's mission to flourish around as an argument. So History Now series is something which reflects the same argument, which complements the main project, because when Jitish is also attempting to make Kochi as almost like an observatory, where it's very easy for anybody to contextualize what is really happening around, and we have set that framework from the beginning. We can actually discuss anything and everything under the sky, so it's and so that possibility was worked out from the beginning. So I think it's went on smooth, I would say,
Also, I think the Biennale Foundation's one of when Jitish was selected. Before that, what we put towards to the Artistic Advisory Committee is that we would be very happy to have a curator who is an artist, also an artist, who practice, who understand the theory at the same time, So this artist, that's, I think, everybody was so happy to select, put Jitish's name, and he's meticulous, he's well known, he's connected, all kinds of things. Everybody was said that, he could bring a new, directions from the vision of our foundation. This the kind of thing we would like to work with artists who, of course, it is very difficult to work with sometimes artists, Not, I'm not just talking about Jitish, but I think it has helped us tremendously when Jitish was part of our, I can say, organization and, the project. Yeah.
Riyas, I wanted to quote you. You made in your presentation yesterday, you spoke about how the Kochi-Muziris Biennale has exposed the city's vulnerabilities. Obviously, the foundation and you as an artist, Jitish and Bose, there's a lot of pressure of expectations on you from the public. A public which is probably disenchanted or disillusioned by traditional institutions and governments. Probably they look up to you as an agent of change, significant change in society. What to your mind, Riyas, do you think the foundation can assume the role of an activist, or is it too much pressure to bear? Or what is it that, how would you think the foundation would navigate this literally sea of expectations?
From the beginning of the inception of the idea, this has been a biennial of resistance or struggle, which everybody knows. So, and what are the main reasons for that? One, I would say that ignorance. So, in a context like that, when you're doing a project where historically, the site never has been exposed in a scale like this, the first impression you might get is like, you're parachuting something into a society which doesn't understand or have a capacity to respond or read what is placed in front of them. And I think we have gone through that crisis. So I think the first edition itself was a crisis like that. The responses which one was getting, and what the biennial in general has provoked us among the people is like a kind of an understanding about one's own history, and that's the larger reading which is happening. In a cultural place like this in Kerala, the major appreciation for this project which has come from alternate spaces or alternate voices or the underground, to some extent, who don't normally be part, or accepted, political voices. Why it happens is, there was always a reluctance in a society to discuss the immediate issues. So, like Dr. Bal, who came to see the biennial, he made a very valid comment that day. According to me, Kerala was static since last 20-25 years. The biennial came in like a volcano. It's just because it had its ripple effect, not only among the locals. It has had a very strong impact among the intellectuals, because it has brought in something which one has to kind of understand. I think the historical depth itself. So that becomes the starting point of any discourse. Then then you start surveying what has been the kind of ripple effect of the biennial itself. I would personally chart out certain objectives which we achieved. The first thing which I'll give is like finding infrastructure to kind of accommodate art. See, when the biennial came here, if you calculate the amount of space Kochi had to do an art exhibition, was maybe like 10,000 square feet. Now we have 450,000 square feet spaces with the biennial coming in. So that physicality, and the one bigger message which I would see in a state like Kerala where literature dominates. See, as artists, I think we always have a kind of a greater understanding about space, a space which is physical, a physical space which actually allows you to kind of to discuss your ideas and ideologies. But for a writer, especially in a society like this, you don't need a physical space. You need a space which is in the mind of someone or into the knowledge of someone. So it's, see, the argument of the biennial has always been kind of creating that physical space to exist, because art needs that. I think the first that message has gone in. I think I would see that. I mean, that is the first intervention the biennial has done. The rest we have to see, because it's something which we have to still wait. Now people have understood the value of physical space in a place like Kerala, where you never had the patronage of art, where you never understood the value of contributions of certain revolutionary artists. I would say like Raja Ravi Verma is one of the biggest example, because he is somebody who followed the best technology which was available at that time, and he was somebody who left the state. So why he left, a Malayali has never given an answer to that. So I think there's a kind of a rereading of our own vulnerabilities towards certain understanding about visual art. So the biennial has exposed that, I would say. So I think the next stages are something which we are going to see, because when we could do a literary festival inside Maharaja's College, celebrating the generation or a kind of larger generation which Maharajas has produced, I would say that it's an achievement of the biennial to kind of integrate that larger community into a project. So, and they're getting they're somewhere or the other they're getting the spirit of the biennial, because what we speak there is not about art. We are only speaking there about Kochi's strength as a place. So I think it's Kochi's vulnerability is also Kochi's strength. So it's because, see, in a larger context, that when you see that more than 30 communities living together, it is a site of study. That why and how it existed since centuries. So I can say, when people were coming here this year also to encounter that kind of a historical understanding. But what happened here this year was kind of a interesting departure, sitting on that kind of a healthy understanding of a site. So I think that's, and I know, I've had conversations with many people. They have understood that. It is actually exploring. To put it simply, it's exploring the possibilities.
I think I would like to add, Riyas, from the first Biennale itself we experienced that, but over and over when we look at it, I would say that there is a kind of that elitist world. People used to think art world is a kind of elitist, white Cuban kind of life. Here it is really open up to all kinds of classes of life. We could say that erased that kind of that borders, and it's become people's Biennale. From the first edition, I could see there is a kind of another seriousness at Jitish's curated edition. It is more and more intellectually receptive. As Riyas mentioned, Maharaja's College, or almost all the neighboring colleges, they started talking about issues related to education, issues related to women. All these things are, there is a kind of certain urgency, pulled out from here. That's what I could read it from. This ripple effect is almost like kind of the paraganam. It's almost like spread across almost everywhere. I could see that.
This slightly tricky question. This came up during a lot of discussions about artists such as you going out of Kerala to Bombay and other cities of India and bringing to bear on Kerala and Kerala society a very reinvigorating perspective, a different perspective. As an artist, do you think there has been a certain dichotomy? Is there a dichotomy at all between artists who have been raised one way, say, but have gone to Bombay or other cities, and artists who have chosen to work in Kerala? Is there an ideological dichotomy there? I'm curious to know about.
I would like to say, be honest with, I've been hearing some of the artists say that we can stay back in Kerala and survive. But I think when we look at their career, they live here, they work here, but I don't think anybody is bought or, I'm sorry, I'm just talking about the side of it, but I think it is important to discuss. Their work is almost all the time, it has been shown outside or represented by a gallery. They live here, their work. But I think we started getting certain kind of possibility of developing residencies, studio spaces. Biennale brought that kind of thing. I could see, the best example is they realized there is a kind of, it used to have mediocre exhibitions and exhibition spaces in Kerala. Even if you go to art colleges, you can see there is a kind of professionalism, there is a kind of understanding. Maybe they taken it from the Biennale, looking at Lalit Kala Academy space, new space which renovated, restored by Vikas Dilavari, and that space is also brought interesting shows from around the world. First show was a museum show from Germany. When we started thinking about, as Riyas mentioned, 10,000 square feet space, we had only 10,000 square feet space. Now we could, we could bring even a Picasso or a Van Gogh to that weather controlled space. So infrastructure is important, and the students' education, I think the students got much more power from, much more knowledge from how, and these students, some of the students who are volunteering with artists, they all learned quite a lot of things, like when we were students, all of us, we wanted to go out and, work with artists whom are coming out from different part of India or outside. We used to go to Jahangir and help them. We go and help them. Ask them, would like to be. We used to learn from those kind of participatory work, or joining hands with them. That's a kind of thing. I feel the whole young generation of artists got a lot of. It's a kind of incredible moment for them.
To add to this point that was just mentioned, Jitish, what has changed in art school today? Probably amongst the youngest, younger of the two. What has changed since then in art school from your time to, as we speak now?
Not too much has changed in art institutions, at least the one that we went to. I mean, if anything, the distance that the art school is from the reality of the present can be described as inverse proportion to the changes outside. You know, the distance seems even further in terms of how the wider art world in India has transitioned, whereas the art schools across really haven't. But that said, the point Bose is making about art schools in Kerala is a very significant one. And my own experience at, say, the Trishur College of Art at the annual exhibition, which both of us went together, was quite incredible. I think just to see across that multiple batches, the way they had also across departments let their artworks, mix between departments. I think it was really very, very interesting. And so in a city like Bombay, where the three of us had our schooling, art schools like that have a lot of catching up to do, especially in an environment where everything else is changing.